Sunnis study is pioneering, so it only provides us with a small base of evidence. But as I dug deeper, I found two related areas of scientific investigation that helped me to understand this more. The first comes intriguingly from studies investigating if we can really learn how to speed read. Several teams of scientists have spent years figuring out, can you make humans read things really, really fast? They found that you can, but it always comes at a cost. These teams took ordinary people and got them to read much faster than they ordinarily would. With training and with practice, it sort of works. They can run their eyes over the words quickly and retain something of what they are seeing. But if you then test them on what they read, you will discover that the faster you make them go, the less they will understand. More speed means less comprehension. Scientists then studied professional speed readers, and they discovered that even though they are obviously better at it than the rest of us, the same thing happens. This showed there's just a maximum limit for how quickly humans can absorb information. And trying to bust through that barrier simply busts your brain's ability to understand it instead. The scientists investigating this also discovered that if you make people read quickly, they are much less likely to grapple with complex or challenging material. They start to prefer simplistic statements. After I read this, I looked again at my own habits. When I read a physical newspaper, I'll often be drawn to the stories that I don't understand yet. Why, say, is there an uprising in Chile? But when I read the same newspaper online, I usually skim those stories and click on the simpler, more scannable stories related to the stuff I already know. After I noticed this, I wondered if, in some ways, we are increasingly speed reading life, skimming hurriedly from one thing to another, observing less and less. One day in my webless summer, after slowly reading a book, slowly eating a meal, and slowly wandering around town, I wondered if, in my normal life, I suffered from a kind of mental jet lag. When I fly into a distant time zone, you feel like you've moved too fast and now you are out of sync with the world around you. The British writer Robert Colville says, we are living through the great acceleration, and like Sune, he argues it's not simply our tech that's getting faster. It's almost everything. There's evidence that a broad range of important factors in our lives really are speeding up. People talk significantly faster now than they did in the 1950s, and in just 20 years, people have started to walk 10% faster in cities. Usually, this acceleration is sold to us in a spirit of celebration. The original BlackBerry advertising slogan was, anything worth doing is worth doing faster. Internally, at Google, their unofficial motto among the staff is, if you're not fast, you're fucked. But there's a second way in which scientists have learned how this social slamming on of the accelerator is affecting our attention. It comes from studying what happens to focus not when we speed up, but when we deliberately slow down. One of the leading experts on this topic is Guy Claxton, professor of learning sciences at the University of Winchester, who I went to interview in Sussex. in England. He has analyzed what happens to a person's focus if they engage in deliberately slow practices like yoga or Tai Chi or meditation. As discovered in a broad range of scientific studies, and he has shown they improve your ability to pay attention by a significant amount. I asked him why. He said that we have to shrink the world to fit our cognitive bandwidth. If you go too fast, you overload your abilities and they degrade. But when you practice moving at a speed that is compatible with human nature, and you build that into your daily life, you begin to train your attention and focus. That's why those disciplines make you smarter. It's not about humming or wearing orange robes. Slowness, he explained, nurtures attention and speed shatters it. At some level in Provincetown, I sensed this was true, so I decided to try these slow practices. The first time I went to see my yoga teacher, Stephen Fisitelli, I said to him, "This is going to be like teaching yoga to Stephen Hawking after his death." I explained that I was an immobilized lump of flesh designed only to read, write, and occasionally walk. He laughed and said, "We'll see what we can do." And so every day, for an hour, under his guidance, I slowly moved my body in ways I had never done before. At first, I found it extraordinarily boring, and I tried to draw Stephen into arguing about politics or philosophy. He would always gently guide me back to trying to move into some weird pretzel shape I had never tried before. By the end of the summer, I was able to be silent for an hour and to stand on my head. Afterwards, sometimes with Stephen's guidance, I would meditate for 20 minutes, a practice I had tried at various points in my life but always let lapse. I felt a kind of slowness spreading through my body. I felt my heartbeat slow down, and my shoulders, which are normally in a kind of permanent hunch, relaxed gently. But even when I felt the physical relief from this slowness, it was always followed by a kind of a bubbling guilt. I thought, how can I explain this to my sped up, stressed out friends back home? How can we all change our lives so we feel more like this? How do you slow down in a world that is speeding up?